Welcome to the Polygamer podcast, where gaming is for everyone. Join us as we expand the boundaries of the gaming community.
Hello and welcome to the Polygamer podcast, episode number 55 for Wednesday, November 9th, 2016. I'm your host, Ken Gagny, and today I am speaking with content creator on Twitch, SeriouslyClara. Hello, Clara.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm doing well.
You have successfully navigated the transition from daylight saving into standard time. Thank you. And the reason I say thanks is because otherwise we'd be missing each other by an hour here, or one of us would be late, the other would be early. Oh, what a mess.
That's true. But we're here. We did it.
We are. And most people are accustomed not just to hearing your voice like they are right now, but to actually seeing you on Twitch, because you are a Twitch streamer of video games galore, correct?
That's correct. Indie games.
Specifically, exclusively indie games?
Yeah. As of the last year, I've done almost nothing else but indie games. I think all indie games.
And lately you've been playing Owlboy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the last game I streamed.
Oh, I would so love to play that game, but it's for Windows only. No console, no handheld, and for me, no Mac. How is it?
It's probably it's definitely one of my favorite games this year, if not my favorite.
And what is it that you love about it so much?
Well, it's beautiful. It's gorgeous to look at, and it's wonderful to listen to. The soundtrack is fantastic. I, in fact, bought the soundtrack separately before the game released. The characters are extremely charming. The twin stick controls, the free flight. It's kind of like, it's always been a thing that's drawn me to games. I loved games like Skies of Arcadia and just anything that's in the sky. And this one gave you free flight. It was also the perfect length for streaming. For me, it just took, a couple of streams and then a little bit just to end it off. And I always find it difficult to find games like this that end at the right time. They just seem to go on forever. Ori and the Blind Forest is another good example of when a game like that should end appropriately. But the whole package was so well defined and well delivered that you just can't help but appreciate the 9 years that went into making this game.
It must be so gratifying for them to have worked for almost a decade on this game and to have it come out and get so many perfect scores. And you mentioned one of the things that I love about this game, even though I haven't played it, which is the soundtrack. I too bought the album by Jonathan Geer on Bandcamp.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it is just, oh my gosh, just listening to this music, my heart just aches. I want to play this game. I want to live in that world.
Yeah, definitely. I even gifted it to a few people just because it's so wonderful. I want to support this guy, and I know that they would love it.
And you also mentioned one of my favorite RPGs of all time, Skies of Arcadia.
Oh, yay! On Dreamcast or on GameCube.
Now, I had both of those consoles.
Oh, wow.
I never got to play the game until it came out on GameCube.
It's honestly the better edition. I hate to say I love the Dreamcast, but the GameCube version is better.
Well, I heard it had some additional content, correct?
Yes, and additional content and unlockables or what have you, yeah.
Yeah, I loved that game. It was one of the most optimistic RPGs I've ever played. So many games nowadays are so dark and pessimistic, but this game, it was just so likable.
Exactly. Vice, the main character, was just someone that drew you in, I really don't like games that have the 13-year-old that saves the world sort of thing. But this was one of those few games like Grandia and whatnot that, despite that being a barrier to drawing me in for content and plot wise, you just fall in love with Vice and how very positive he is and hopeful he is in everything that he does, no matter what he goes through. So yeah, it's very charming. I love that game so much. It's
one of those games that I wish there wasn't just one of them. I wish that team would get back together and bring out a sequel, or a spiritual sequel at least.
Mm-hmm. Oh, trust me. I actually played through it again with my boyfriend the end of last year, start of this year, and we just chipped away at it, got every discovery and everything. It was a wonderful time.
Now we're gonna go back and talk about how you got into Twitch streaming, but since we're talking about indie games, I want to quickly ask you about the other side of the coin. I do indie videos on my YouTube channel, and I get people telling me that I would get so many more viewers if I would just play Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto or Minecraft. And they're probably right. I probably would get more views because there's not a lot of organic search for indie games, which don't have a lot of marketing and word of mouth and buzz. So how do you justify playing just indie games when you know that you might be missing out on a potentially much bigger audience.
Well, it's funny because I first started playing or streaming video games, doing AAA titles, MMOs, and things that brought in viewers. And then after I got partnered is when I decided to say, screw it all. I'm going to play what I want. And at the time, I was actually starting to feel like AAA titles were getting more watered down, and it was just, they were so far reaching, and they kind of followed the same formula every single time because of how big they are and how much funding they get and all these stakeholders. It kind of dictates that it follows that formula to be successful. And I got bored. So after I got partnered, I realized I can do whatever I want here. This is my platform. Why am I following a formula myself? And because I have the luxury of being casual. I'm not a full-time streamer. I don't rely on it, for my livelihood. I have the luxury of choosing what I want, and viewership be damned, sort of thing. And you're absolutely right. People tell me that all the time. If you were to stream League of Legends, or God forbid, or Call of Duty and Minecraft, I would get a ton of viewers back to, my glory days when I was streaming the AAA titles. But I just have so much more enjoyment with my little platform that I have, my little corner of the internet, and having a voice, however small it is, to support the underdogs. I've always supported underdogs in everything in my life, and I feel indie developers are as underdog as they get in the gaming industry. These are all passion projects of theirs. Streaming is a passion project of mine. It just seemed to go hand in hand, and I get way more gratification giving feedback to a developer who will not only take your feedback, but hang out with you in the chat while you're playing their game. That's absolutely huge. Twitch is all about community, and this is a community that is just aching to be heard. The underbelly, the indie devs are just, they don't have an organic search term for anything that they do, right? So I feel like I have a place in that I can help them in some way, and that's all the gratification I need.
It also may make it easier for you to stand out because while there may be a million people playing Call of Duty, at any given time, there's a possibility you may be the only person on Twitch playing Owlboy.
Absolutely, yeah. There's definitely that as well, because the audience for indie games is growing. And so they want content creators. They want to see videos. They want to see streams about the games that they're now interested in. And the top 1%, they're still streaming the AAA titles. So you do have a potential edge, but honestly, it's not that much. Not currently, no, absolutely not.
Well, whatever you can do to justify it to yourself, as long as you're having fun.
That's exactly it. Yeah. Love what you do.
So let's start back at the beginning. I read the bio on your website, a link to which will be in the show notes at polygamer.net. And you said that for a while there, you quit playing games because grown-up things took over. What brought you back to gaming?
I want to say Guild Wars 2 at first, but definitely streaming really pulled me back the hardest. I had just ended a long-term relationship at the time, so I PvP'd a lot just to keep me out of trouble, since single life was always my jam. Then I started dabbling in other MMOs when Guild Wars 2 got stale, as they end up doing WildStar, ArcAge, Black Desert, even some WoW, which I'm really ashamed to say. I also just always thought that I needed an MMO in my life to be happy. It was just that phase, I guess. And then when that turned out to be untrue, and I kind of discovered that every MMO that was out sucked, in my opinion, it was all kind of the same, just a different flavor. I threw in like various AAA titles because I thought that's what I had to do when I was streaming. That's what everybody else that, when you click on browse, the top 50 streamers are all playing like the same 6 or 7 games. So I thought, oh, that's what I have to do. But even just doing that, I started to fall back in love with gaming again, and adding more variety, albeit AAA titles. It was still variety. I started to notice that this is where I wanted to be. Like, it just made sense. Why did I give this up? Why would I have a baby when I have this?
Wow.
Why would I have kids? No, actually, growing up, I've never wanted kids ever. And that was one of the big grown up things that took over my life, was that for the first time ever, my boyfriend at the time talked me into like we're gonna have a baby together. And I was like, oh well, I guess that's what I'm doing now. And when I focus on something, I go full in. So I was very much, well, my life has to change to facilitate this new life that I'll probably be bringing on board in the next few years. And thankfully that ended. So I went back to doing what I love and following what's, true to my heart, and that is making Clara happy. And video games makes Clara happy. So it's funny, like I mentioned before, after I got partnered, that's when I decided to say, like, screw the numbers, just play whatever I feel like let's actually explore and play retro games that I grew up with. Let's look at the like indie games that no one's heard of. And that's where I've stayed to this day. And I don't think I'll ever leave gaming until my fingers fall off.
Well, thank you for opening up about that surprisingly personal reason why you were away from gaming. I mean, I'm a big advocate for the child-free lifestyle, and I feel like it's something that women are expected to justify a lot more often than men are.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I've not been in a situation perhaps as intense as what you described, but I too have been in that situation where there was a disconnect between what I wanted and what my partner wanted. And it's really challenging to navigate because you can't have half a kid.
Exactly. Yep. And that's why I went full in and did all the research. And I felt like I was the most prepared person that I could ever be to be a parent. Unlike those, this is probably going to sound strange, but I felt I was more prepared than people who have been or assuming that they were going to have a kid all their lives, because I was like, wow, this is a change, and I'm going to be you can never be ready. You're never fully ready to have a kid. But because I was so intensely focused on it, I was so prepared. Way more than my girlfriends who are like, well, I'm just going to have a kid. It's just what's going to happen, and things will just fall into place. Ugh.
No, so, I totally get that. My partner and I were talking about adopting, and when we decided on that, I was the one who read The Complete Idiot's Guide to Adopting. I was the one who set up the informational interview with the adoption agency. Even though this was years off, I was the one who was getting ready today.
That right.
Because same thing, when you commit yourself to something, you go all in.
And if it's another life, you go all in.
Yeah, even if you don't want to do it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just because you hate it doesn't mean you're going to suck at it.
That's
wow.
Exactly it. We went on a tangent there.
Yeah, but it's an important one because this is a podcast about diversity, and the child-free lifestyle is definitely in the minority. It's growing. I think from the 1970s to today, the number of married women in the United States has grown from 5% to 10%. But it's very much cultural, because in Italy, it's 25%.
Wow, I did not know that. Interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely a result of society's expectations on women, I think, and that changes based on which society you're in.
I should probably move to Italy. I would get less what I call momvangelists. They're everywhere. Momvangelists are constantly saying, "Oh, you don't have a baby yet."
Oh, yeah.
You're not a whole person until you have a baby.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry you've had to deal with that. I mean, I think it's a little bit easier for me as a guy to get away with it, but we should just both move to Italy and play video games.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, it's been great chatting with you. I'm glad we came to that conclusion. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so you came back into video games when you realized you didn't want to be responsible for another entity, and that followed shortly thereafter with your streaming debut, which we're just shy of the 3-year anniversary because you were, quote-unquote, tricked into streaming in December 2013. The story of how that happened is on your blog. I won't have you repeat it, but you did say on your blog that at first you hated streaming. So what changed?
Yes, I really, really, really did hate it. I thought, like, this is the weirdest thing. Why would anybody watch this? I cannot stop babbling, and it's just about nonsense. This is ridiculous. I can't even comment. I was PvPing at the time, so I thought, I'm supposed to be sharing skills and things like that and what you're supposed to do, but I can't even do that because I'm playing the game and you guys keep talking at me. Stop talking at me. And I did it really infrequently. Like I'm talking, that's why I say that I've only been streaming for 2.5 years, because before that I'd been streaming just days and weeks in between each stream, and I only did it because I was bugged a lot to do so. But right about the time I started to like it, I actually started getting harassed by someone. It was to the point where I had to involve the police because he was essentially doxing me and threatening me and that sort of thing. It terrorized me for weeks, and I finally had enough. So I came clean on stream with what was going on in my life, and it was on my birthday during my first and only, thank God, 24-hour stream, and the response was overwhelmingly positive. I felt like I could make something positive out of this, so that was the turning point for me. Is just, this is no longer just this thing that I did because other people wanted me to. I kind of had fun, sort of thing. I actually listened to my community, which at the time I didn't even realize I had, and decided that I would take streaming seriously from then on and really embrace this new medium as a platform to do some good. And I didn't go full time. I don't think I ever see myself doing full-time streaming ever, but I did set out to make something out of my stream instead of just randomly starting up OBS and bullshitting a couple hours away and then, never thinking about it again. So some of the changes I made, I became less of a troll, because that's kind of a requirement you have when you PvP. I focused more on inclusion, positivity, and I set about actually having a streaming schedule, which was just crazy unheard of for me. I just don't know what came over me, but it was like, I'm going to set a schedule. I am going to do this seriously. I'm going to have a platform. And I even joined online support groups to help other people who were targeted and bullied online. And I basically just got involved and invested in more than just playing games. Playing games was sort of the commonality that we had, but then we discussed so many other things on stream, and that's what really turned me on to this pastime as something more serious.
But at first, you were having trouble playing the games because everybody online was talking at you.
Yeah, I had to make that switch, and on my birthday, I stopped playing games long enough to tell them, I'm like, okay, real talk, guys. We're going to talk about what's going on. And from that response, I was like, oh, this is what streaming's about. It's about that interaction. It's about the community. It's about communication. It's not about skills-based playing and just, gamer face drool down my chin. That's not what the content is about. It's about the community and how you interact with them. It's about the streamer, not the game. So that was just a huge turning point in so many ways. And I realized that interaction with my audience, that's what mattered, not the game. And it was huge.
It sounds like that real-time interaction is very important to you. Is that why you use Twitch instead of, say, recording videos to later post to YouTube?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. YouTubers say that they have a community, but I feel like with Twitch, you really have a community because you're talking to them as opposed to reacting to them. Well, I guess they're the same thing, but reacting to them days after the fact, whereas you're having a live conversation on Twitch. And I feel like that's just, and I've started dabbling on YouTube myself in the past few weeks I just wanted to gain new skills of what to do with post-production and things like that. And it's just a completely different world, just completely different.
How so?
I don't find YouTube as being the community. It's a lot more involved work. And you don't see the results of it right away. It takes hours of work before you see results. Twitch is more instantly gratifying. And you feel more connected. I feel more connected with my audience. Whenever I go live and people are saying hello, that right there is just instant. It's huge. Just there's a person there, as opposed to I'm going to just send this content out into the ether. Who knows who's watching it? Who knows who's there? You don't even have usernames to refer to when you make content on YouTube. Whereas on Twitch, you can say, hello, I don't know, Ginger, hi, Silver Fox, hi, and have relationships with people.
One of the features that I've noticed seems to be optional on YouTube, but almost expected on Twitch, is having that face cam, that reaction shot, so that you can see the person playing the game.
Mhm.
Do you find that that makes it harder, not from a technical perspective, but just from exposing yourself even that much more?
Harder in what way?
There is the technical aspect of having to set up the camera, but there's also like you might be more concerned about how you look, or you might feel more vulnerable because people can see you, or maybe you don't feel very expressive in front of the camera and there's just that much more pressure to
Mhm.
be performing.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. That again, one of the many reasons I hated streaming to begin with is like I constantly felt like I have to train my face a certain way. I had to put on makeup. I had to say the right things at the right time and make sure that I react a certain way that made sense to what people are watching for. Obviously, that changed because that's really not what it's about. But there is that extra pressure, and of course, the extra targeting of like, oh, what's wrong with her face, or why is her hair like that? You know, like the physical commentary. They're definitely it's a lot harder. And when you're on YouTube, you can just retake things. You know, you can just be natural and say whatever you want. And if it doesn't turn out right, you can play it back and go, oh, I'm going to redo that or just cut that out completely. Twitch, you know that you don't have that. You're just out there. You're exposed. This is you, raw, and that's it. So definitely more pressure that way. And I, for one, actually enjoy that.
You thrive under pressure?
I actually do thrive under pressure from a professional standpoint, and that's carried over to streaming.
I have some friends who play MMOs or FPSs or whatever, and they are hesitant to use the voice chat because once their teammates or opponents find out or can hear that they are women, they start receiving very different behavior from those other players. But with a video camera, you can't hide who you are. Does that affect your interactions in a positive or negative way?
Um, Positive and negative, mostly positive because I make sure my community is a certain includes certain personalities. Like it's a very diverse and varied personality, group. But I make sure that there's no hate speech or anything like that that happens in my chat. And anybody who does, my mods catch them instantly. And so mostly positive for me because I maintain very strict guidelines on my community. And the positivity side of things is that they feel more connected to me because they can see me. Negative side of things is, I mean, obviously I was a target for cyberbullying and harassment in the past. And I still kind of get that from time to time. Even like I get death threats from people I don't even know. And I don't get taken seriously as a gamer sometimes because they can see me. I get underhanded compliments like, oh, finally a girl who's not showing her boobs for attention, which honestly is a terrible thing to hear, like despite how well-meaning they intended to sound. I also get just straight up sexist remarks and hate speech, and that also goes for being Asian. Honestly, it doesn't bother me at all personally. I'm not saying it's right, but and I will stand up to anyone who targets my community. But me, it doesn't really bother me. I win by being the better person and living a happier life.
But at some point, you do have to take these people seriously because you never know how far they're going to take it.
That's true. However, I've found and I've learned that if you don't give them the attention that they're so craving, and they just get timed out, banned, or ignored, they disappear.
You mentioned that you also have some help from your mods. How does that work? Who are they?
My moderators are hand-selected by me and unanimously voted in by my other mods every single time. And they have the exact expectations that I have for my community imprinted into their brains. And what I do actually is I have a delay set on my chat so that if there is hate speech or a troll or whatever happening in my chat, I actually never see it because my mods are on the ball. By the time it hits that delay for me to see it, it's gone. And so it doesn't impact me on what I do. And, it doesn't kind of throw me for a loop that why would somebody say that? Or, it just doesn't affect me. I just don't get exposed to it anymore because my mods are so on it. And I make sure that my mods are, they're at a standard before they're onboarded, because if they're not there as my first line of defense, then I'm in for a lot harder ride.
So you have to sync up your schedules with them to make sure they're online at the same time you are?
For some, not all of my mods do chat management. Some of them do community management for me as well. Like, I think any streamer worth their salt will tell you that streaming itself is like the easiest part of streaming. It's the in between that's harder. The community management, the emails, the emails, the branding and whatnot. I also do contest giveaways. So every week I give away a game on Twitter. I have a mod that does all of that for me. I just give them the games. I have Discord where my mods take care of that in between my streams. But yeah, there's always one or two mods that will be there for when I'm live streaming.
Discord, that's similar to Slack, right?
It's based a lot on Slack, to be honest. And I love Slack a lot, but it's a voice program, voice and chat program, I guess. That's like Slack, but with a different purpose.
Oh, so it's like a cross between Slack and Skype?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it looks like Slack, but it's meant more as a communication tool, whereas I think Slack, I use it for collaboration more and projects.
Gotcha. And you mentioned Twitter giveaways. I've seen different platforms and different apps that are out there to help you run those. How do you do it? Do you just say, like, hey, everybody, retweet me if you want a chance to win?
Well, I do giveaways in three main different ways. I do Twitter, which someone just manages that account for me. So yeah, it's a separate account, not from me, because that was what irritated the crap out of me originally. So I have a separate account called Clara Gives, and as long as you're following that account, every week there's a tweet that goes out, and if you want to enter, you can either like, retweet, or comment, and if you do all three, you get 3 entries, because we literally or my mod will just count up all the likes, all the retweets, and all the comments, and that's the number that she randomly generates from, and then whoever is in that order wins. It's very, very basic. So we do that every week. I also do sub-only giveaways on my Discord server once a month, and those are for larger games. And now I'm doing weekly giveaways on stream using Revlo rewards, and that also includes SteelSeries products because I'm partnered with them.
Oh, excellent. I will look into that. I've been looking at how to do giveaways myself, and the only real platform I'd found was called Gleam.io. I haven't used it yet, so I'm happy to find some alternatives to investigate as well. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about scheduling as far as your mods go, but you also said that you have your own broadcast schedule, and that's something that is actually required to be a Twitch partner. You have to broadcast, at least 3 times a week?
So I had no idea. You had to stream 3 times a week to be a partner.
Oh, surprise.
Yeah, I had no idea, but what was the exact question that you were asking?
Well, the first part of the question was the minimum is 3 times a week?
Mm-hmm.
The second part of the question is, how do you schedule your life around broadcasting 3 times a week?
Well, I actually plan streaming around my life, not the other way around, because streaming's just a hobby for me. My work, my family, my life, they always come first. I would definitely feel less passionate about streaming if it became such an obligation that I need to schedule my life around it. That's why I really never plan on making it my full-time job. There are some extra struggles with it because I'm casual, though. I do struggle with the in-between. As I mentioned, like there's so much you have to do in between streaming if you want to make it successful. Outside of just like myself, a hobby. And even as a hobby, if you're taking it seriously, you still have to do more. The branding, the social media, upgrades to your hardware, any of the audience facing bits like your profile and things like that. The emails, community management, general maintenance. And I also host monthly Twitch community meetups in Vancouver because I'm crazy and apparently I don't need to sleep ever. You just basically become a project manager. I do it because I love it, and that's simply it. It's a passion project, and I stream purely because I love to stream. So I schedule my stream around my life, but I am able to do that and continue on a regular basis just simply because I love it.
If you schedule your stream around your life, is there still regularity? Like, can your viewers expect to find you online every Wednesday at 7 p.m.?
Yeah, absolutely. Except, Wednesday's actually one of the days I don't stream, but I do have a posted schedule. It's not necessarily I will start at this time. It's I will start after this time because, again, it's around my life. My life will be busy, guaranteed up until a certain amount of time. in the day up to a certain hour. And that means my job and my, eating time, my hangout time, my family time. And then when I have that, I have free time slotted in my life in general, and I choose to fill it with streaming. So I have a set schedule: Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, indie game streams after 7:30 p.m. PST. And then Saturdays, a very late short stream of just doing something creative. And so that's when they can expect me. And if I have any other changes, I will post it on Discord and I will tweet it out. So if I'm not feeling well, or if I have a weekend away that I've got planned, I will let people know that way and update my stream status. And every day that I do go live, I tweet an hour beforehand, always at least an hour beforehand, that I'm going live in an hour or so.
How many hours a week would you say you spend streaming?
Ooh, 15, somewhere between 15 and 20.
And then when you take into account all the stuff that happens between the streams, would you say this is like a 25 to 30 hour a week thing?
I'd say 25 for me. But if you're going full time, yeah, it would be 40 plus.
So this might not be your full-time job, but it's certainly the equivalent of a part-time job.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I mean, it's fair to say that I'm a part-time streamer. I don't like to consider myself that because, again, that kind of adds that obligation aspect to things. But it is a fair assessment to say I'm a part-time streamer.
I don't know. It sounds like you have the opportunity, if you so desire, to go full-time. And for a lot of people, that would be a dream come true, to get paid for playing video games.
This is true. But that's also, it's kind of the same reason why I never got into gaming QA. Game testing would make me hate video games. Running into the same corner for 8 hours straight until you find the one spot where you get stuck, that would destroy my love for video games. And I've just always had this thing where if I'm obligated to do something, I kind of end up enjoying it less. Same thing with my job. I loved my job until it became my job. So I don't know if I could ever do that. I know I would be successful if I did it. If I made the transition and I actually put my full focus on it, that's almost enough for me, knowing that I could, but not really pursuing it in that way. I love the idea that I'm doing this out of pure passion.
So you're saying you don't like your job?
No, actually, I love my job now. I just started freelancing. I put my notice in, actually, for my government job that I was working just last week. And I'm freelancing. I've been freelancing with them for about a month now at Sandbox Strategies, and they are a gaming PR firm. And I do influencer relations, which is bringing content creators games to review. And that is my dream come true. It's interesting because I discovered in the past year that streaming itself, huge passion of mine, but not nearly as much as my interactions with the community of Twitch in general. That's why I do my monthly meetups in Vancouver for the Twitch community and indie dev community. That's why I go to every single indie dev booth at PAX and any other con that I go to and speak with them directly. And it's why I got into influencer relations, because I love all of the aspects to do with content creators and content creation, even more than I love streaming.
Congratulations on your new job. That's very exciting.
Thank you.
You've been with them for a month, and if I may ask, did they approach you? Did you approach them?
I was approached at PAX West.
Cool. And so if your job is influencer relations, aren't you also technically an influencer?
I am, yeah. So it's a very unique position to be in. I am a content creator, and I manage... I'm sorry, I hate the term influencer. So I always call myself a content creator. Influencer just sounds really, I don't know, a lot of hot. It sounds really fluffy. But yes, I am technically an influencer and I work in influencer relations. And it's a fine line that I need to manage. And it's a challenge that I'm more than willing to take on.
Yeah, because I can imagine that if your job is, say, to get a game in front of an influencer, then you could just say, oh, I'm going to play this game on my Twitch channel. Job accomplished. I'm so good at this.
Absolutely. Except that my channel isn't very big. So we need to get it in front of the right gamers. And I can absolutely be one of those influencers that I put on the list. If I meet the criteria and I want to stream this game, I can. Absolutely. So it's a very unique position to be in, but it also allows me to feel more connected. And in fact, one of the questions, because I was interviewed for this, just to make sure that I did fit the role. And one of the questions was, would you ever quit streaming for this job? And my answer was no. I think I would be less effective. I would maybe, if required, I might reduce my hours because my job does always come first. But I would never quit streaming for my job, for this job, because it would make me less effective. I feel connected with the community, with the content creator side of things, and that would break my ties. And I would probably leave both before I left one.
And was that a trick question when you gave that answer, or were they like, okay, you pass, good job?
They actually gave me a big thumbs up for that, apparently. I found out afterwards.
Well, I can see why. It's important to not only be true to yourself and what you enjoy, because a happy employee is an effective employee, but also they were basically asking you if you would give up the very thing that made you so well suited for that job in the first place.
That's exactly it. That's exactly what I felt.
Well, it's good that you were aware of your strengths and willing to stand up for them. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, you said that they approached you at PAX West. You've been to a whole bunch of gaming conventions, PAX West, and you've also been to my hometown for PAX East, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Are you coming to PAX East 2017 in March of next year?
I am.
Excellent. Maybe we can cross paths.
Yep. I've already secured my tickets and everything.
Fantastic. Now, how do you register? As a member of the press?
Honestly, just as a regular, I was able to, because I was on the panel at PAX West, I was able to get what are they called?
Speaker badge.
A speaker badge, I guess. Yeah. So that was the only time that I've ever had something like that. And I made full use of that, but I just go as a regular.
Because you said, in your opinion, that your channel is not very big. How big is it?
I think it's just, it just hit 22,000. So it's not that big.
Because I don't know what PAX media policy is for streamers or for Twitch, but I know if you want to get in as a member of the press and you have a YouTube channel, you need to have at least 50,000 subscribers.
Well, see, that alone tells me that I don't qualify.
But shouldn't Sandbox Strategy be able to get you a badge as an exhibitor?
It's possible. It's possible. I'm not sure if they go as an exhibitor or not. It's not something that I'm asking right now, but it's possible in the future. They did mention that travel is potentially a requirement, and I know that the person that I report to, whose position I am eventually going to mirror, if all goes well, fingers crossed, because I am still freelancing right now. I don't want to talk too much about the future, that he gets sent on trips. So it's a possibility in the future, but we haven't gotten that far yet.
Well, in the case of badges, it's not a big deal because, like you said, you already have your PAX East badge. But when they send you to a conference, if it's a conference you're already going to anyway, it's great to have somebody else pick up the bill for your travel and lodging.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I'm not going to complain about that at all.
For example, you just went to your second ever TwitchCon, right?
Yeah.
Actually, I think it wasn't just your second ever. Wasn't it the second ever TwitchCon?
It was the second ever, yeah.
Wow. So what does that consist of? Just a lot of people sitting around staring into cameras?
No, it's both for broadcasters and viewers. And there are a lot of panels. There's panels every minute of the con, I think. But this year was a lot better than last year. It actually felt like a con. There were actual booths. I mean, there were booths before, but like actual booths. The panels, which I didn't get a chance to go to, unfortunately, because I was hosting the indie stage the entire weekend. But I've heard that those were a whole lot better. It's a lot of community. Like I say that word a lot when I talk about Twitch because it's true. The venue was better. The people actually talked. The panels were interactive, I heard. The booths were facilitated actual communication. They had kind of sections this time. So all the creative streamers had their creative corner where they could all mingle and actually meet because they have their own sort of partnership contracts. They had the fundraiser or the charity section. So all the charity fundraisers got to hang out, and it was really a gigantic community meetup and having a lot of interest pieces to do with the thing that we all shared a commonality in. So it was great.
What was it like to attend an event where people recognize you from your stream? I assume that happened.
Well, yeah, that's actually happened for the last 2 years, since PAX after I got partnered. Actually, even the PAX before I got partnered, that is the reason I even got partnered, because the people who recognized me as an unpartnered broadcaster at PAX Prime at the time, um, encouraged the crap out of me to apply, because I never ever envisioned myself applying to be a partner of Twitch. And it's very, very surreal. It's still surreal to this day. It's becoming a little more natural in that I'm not making it awkward anymore. But in my mind, no matter how natural it seems outside, in my mind, I'm still like, holy crap, what is happening? I'm just a regular person. Why is someone like sweating and not wanting to approach me? Why there was a girl crying because she wanted a hug from me? It was so surreal. I had someone make a gigantic sign of one of my sub emotes with a red balloon over it, just going everywhere at the first TwitchCon, last TwitchCon, just to promote me and say, this is Seriously Clara's emote. It's crazy. What I find the most weird, though, is when people recognize me in my hometown in Vancouver. That's a little strange still to me. I get recognized once a month thereabouts from someone different, and that's still a little weird.
Does that happen like at coffee shops or movie theaters?
Not at movie theaters, not at coffee shops, just walking around on transit. I take public transit. I don't drive anymore. That's usually where it happens. And it's awkward because I'm stuck in that same position for a while. We're on the same train, or, we're walking in the same direction and they want to talk and I'm holding groceries. So it's a little strange.
But I thought interacting with your community was the best part of streaming.
It is. But I'm a heavy, heavy introvert. And I might even go so far as to say that my introvertism, or whatever the word is a big driving force for why I stream. Because I control the conversations. I control who and when I respond. And it's an environment where I have communication with someone who's not directly in front of me. I'm looking at a screen with usernames, and while they are still people to me, it's less intimidating because they're not all staring at me. So I used to have crippling social anxiety, and it's gotten better over the years because I even got into motivational speaking just to get over it. And it's worked over the years, but it still doesn't change the fact that I am a heavy, heavy introvert, and I prefer to be left alone. I prefer my alone time, and I can play the role of an extrovert very well. And like I said, people won't notice that I am freaking out in my mind or still going, what is happening right now? Because I play that role really well, but it drains me every single time. And so, yes, it's about the interaction, but it's a certain type of interaction that makes it feel safe. And when I'm meeting someone in person and it's in my hometown, especially after having been harassed by someone who doxed me, there's that extra kind of reservation before I, open myself up in that manner.
So all that being the case, why do you go to conventions where you can't avoid meeting people in person?
That's on public and common ground. So you're all there for the same reason. You're all there for gaming or broadcasting or whatever the convention's about. And you're prepared for that. You're ready for that. That's an environment that facilitates that sort of interaction to happen. So for instance, even though I have social anxiety, at TwitchCon, I hosted the indie stage all 3 days with Ocadrian, and it was broadcast the entire time. There was an audience live as well. But I was prepared for that for weeks. Not for weeks, for days, because Twitch is very last minute in everything they do. But there's a certain amount of mental preparation and emotional preparation that an introvert typically has to do, because we draw our energies from within and not from without. And so because I was ready for it, I was ready to take it on. And it was in an environment that facilitates that sort of meeting.
Do you feel that the gaming community expects people to be extroverts? Is being an introvert as a Twitch streamer or as a con attendee, does it make it more challenging?
Yes. I get that all the time as feedback is, I wish I could meet you at PAX, but it's too many people too fast, and it's too loud, and I have such crazy anxiety. Even in my Twitch meetups in Vancouver, I get that all the time. Is like people are kind of huddled away in the corner, and I have to draw them out really gently and say, it's okay to talk to people, and if they don't want to, I leave them the hell alone. But our little gaming society is still a ways away from making that flip over to feeling accepted, in a lot of ways, and no one feels that more than the introverts in our community.
At the PAXs you've gone to, have you used the AFK rooms?
No, I haven't. I never get a chance to. I actually just retreat to my hotel room, which is usually a few minutes away. I make sure that I book a hotel that is very close. It is worth the extra money because I need that recharge time.
Yes, I can see how that would be convenient. The hotel rooms at PAX East that I've tried to get to often book up very quickly, the ones nearest the con center. So for that reason, the AFK rooms, or the away from keyboard rooms by the nonprofit organization Take This, which has been on this podcast, they're such an invaluable resource where you can go in and it's not just a quiet room with coloring books, although if that's all you need, that's great. But they also have clinical psychologists on hand to talk with you.
Oh, really? I did not know that. That's very cool. I'll definitely make sure that I mention that on stream next time someone mentions that they have anxiety.
Oh, yes, please do. I saw a lot of Twitter testimonials from people who just got back last week from PAX Australia who had a much improved experience due to that resource being available to them.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
Speaking of which, you are not just a Twitch streamer, but as you said, you make this a community for positivity and to focus on the good, and you are an advocate for mental health and body positivity, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how does that come across in a Twitch channel that is ostensibly about indie games?
Well, the indie games is how the people come in and then they stay for hopefully other reasons as well besides just the game. So in my stream, it's very apparent right away that I don't tolerate hate or shaming in any way. That includes against themselves. So that's actually what comes across probably first, because I don't get that many trolls, especially playing indie games. Trolls like to go to where they get the most effect, right? And that's where the biggest communities, and those are typically League streams and Call of Duty and things like that. But what I think it comes across more frequently is when people hate on themselves, the self-deprecation, and saying how, all the things that they can't do and why not, why me, things like that. So I don't put up with that. And I'm like, no, don't hate on yourself. And if you're going to do that, don't do it here, because I don't want to hear that sort of hate speech. I don't want to hear that sort of shaming in my chat. And you are just as important as anybody else here. And I don't want to hear anything less than that about you. Sometimes I go on rants about how acceptance and openness and positivity can change the world, or at the very least each other. Especially in my community, we support each other at all times, unless it's, like I said, we don't obviously support hate speech. So we support being accepted, and that includes by yourself. I also only choose mods who embrace my vision, and they maintain my chat accordingly. On Twitter, even, I have body positivity days for women, not because I don't feel like men deserve or the attention too for their issues. I just have limited time to dedicate to things like this, and I'm just kind of partial to the women's. But I'm very, very much an advocate for accepting yourself and needing no validation other than from yourself.
Can you share with us some specific experiences or encounters you've had on that topic in your Twitch streams, stuff that really stuck out and left an impression?
When people talk about bullying, it really affects me quite a bit. And sometimes that's a topic that comes up frequently, partially because of the kind of revolving door of when people come in and out of your chat. They can't always stay for the hours that you're streaming. And so they catch this topic at odd times. But bullying is a huge topic that comes up from time to time, even from my mods when we kind of do some sharing, and it just all comes organically. I don't pause the game. My channel is still about the game primarily, but these other things do come up, and I keep it an open channel for that. But sometimes people share, and I bring up a topic that is very near and dear to me. Like I said, bullying is a really big example, and people start sharing about what it's done to them, the effects that it still has on them, the reason that they can't go out and socialize because of bullying. And I talk about my experiences, both being bullied and as a bully. I actually grew up as a bully. and what it means to be one, what it means to be bullied, how to overcome it, how long it takes, which could last a lifetime, and what supports there are out there, and that they should feel safe in my community. So that's just one example of many that I could bring up. And I don't want to talk too much about it right now because I might start crying.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, we can talk about something else.
It's okay. I'm just very passionate about people feeling equal and accepting themselves and accepting each other.
Well, speaking of which, I thought I read somewhere that Owlboy is actually a good example of what it means to live with a disability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your main character is mute.
Oh, now see, having not played the game, I did not know that.
Yeah, it's right at the beginning, so it's not a spoiler or anything like that.
Does that play a role in how you choose to play your games? Do you seek out social justice games in any way?
No, not really. I don't know. I'm mildly ashamed to say this, but I do seek out games with a very unique artistic styles. First and foremost, I love games that are either like very detailed in pixel graphics or low poly styles or things like that. So I like games that are striking to look at, because that's mostly what I get out of it when I'm streaming. When I'm off stream, I will play a game for gameplay 100% of the time. But on stream, because it's less about the game in terms of my attention is half split between the game and the chat. The visuals are actually what I get to experience the most, and I take notice the most out of a game. And then absolutely, yeah, I do look at, if there's a game recently called Rogue Wizards, I think, that has a plot supposedly rooted in equality, so I definitely made sure that I streamed that. It does play a role. I wouldn't say a major role, but it does help boost it up in my to-do list on stream.
All other things being equal, if you had a choice to play a game that featured, let's say, a queer biracial woman or a old scruffy white dude, you'd probably choose the woman.
Yes.
Makes sense to me. But sometimes you do let your community choose which games you're going to play, right?
Not anymore.
Oh, okay.
I did in the past. That changed ages ago because I played Bad Rats. And now I run a gaming dictatorship on my channel.
What is Bad Rats?
Bad Rats is a terrible, terrible game, and you should never play it. I don't even remember. I can't remember if you play a rat that killed cats through horrible traps in like somewhat physics-based puzzles. I think I played an hour of that, and that was like, okay, well, this is never happening again. Nay, sir. I am now choosing the games that I play.
Wow, so I was going to ask you if letting your fans choose your games has ever come back to bite you. I guess it has.
Yeah. Absolutely. I've let it go sometimes for sub appreciation days and things like that. I used to let them pick whatever game I play on Saturdays. And of course, they would always pick multiplayer games, which I actually generally stay away from because of the introverted thing. The direct feedback right away it kind of takes away from one of the big reasons why I stream, in that it's my little comfort zone. I'm in my comfortable clothes, in my comfortable home, and in my comfortable rate of communication. So I took that away as well.
But I could see how you could compromise. For example, if you gave them a list of 10 games, all of which you want to play, and you let them vote on which one you played next.
Definitely. Yeah, I still do that from time to time. I will control which options they're given, and then they will vote. So that's absolutely true. But I typically end up playing all of the games anyway. It's really just an order that they pick.
And with the exception of Skies of Arcadia, it sounds like all the games you've mentioned in the last hour that we've been chatting have all been PC games. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So you don't do console, Xbox, PlayStation, Wii?
I used to, but I find that the games that are on those, maybe Xbox, the marketplace has more indie games, the Xbox ad ID, I think. But Nintendo is very, very first party focused. That's actually why I think that they're at a downfall, because their first party games do way better than the third party games. And PlayStation just doesn't have that many exclusive for me, and most of them are quite AAA-ish. So I did used to play console games, but it just isn't worth the hassle anymore when most of the indie games are on PC. and it's just so much easier. I mean, I can plug a controller into my computer, and it's basically this equivalent of playing on a console. Whereas playing on an actual console, I need to fire up my capture program and make sure that all the cables there are cables everywhere in my room.
I hear that.
And there's that lag, and it's just not worth it to me anymore. I stick with PC just out of convenience.
So with the PC, you basically just have a webcam, a microphone, and you said you record using Orbs?
Yep, OBS.
Oh, sorry, OBS. Being a Mac guy, I think actually OBS exists for the Mac, but I tend to use other programs. I just haven't made myself very familiar with that one yet. I should probably check it out, though, because the programs I've been using, like Snaps Pro X or ScreenFlow, they work, but they just eat up so much hard drive space.
Mm-hmm. OBS I don't find it taking up very much. It's quite small. OBS, if you go OBS, make sure you do OBS Studio, not OBS Classic. It's like night and day.
Is that a free program?
They're both free, yep.
Wow. So why would they have two free programs where one sucks and the other doesn't?
I have no idea. I think they might. Well, OBS Studio came after OBS Classic, and people just haven't made the switch.
Gotcha.
Which just boggles my mind.
Okay. So that's what I would do if I wanted to do more computer gaming as opposed to the console gaming I do now.
Oh, you can still do console gaming in OBS. It's just a standard capture program.
Oh, but again, you'll probably have a lot more cables running.
Yeah, and you need extra hardware to capture it.
Awesome. What about if I want to make the jump not from console to PC, but from YouTube to Twitch? I have a YouTube channel with almost 80,000 subscribers. Most of them were just drive-bys who liked one video and will never come back, so I don't really feel like I have a huge community. What if I want to switch from recording Let's Plays that go up later to live streaming on Twitch? What sort of changes would I need to make? Would I have to be playing different games? I mean, obviously, I'd have to have a camera set up and I'd be in front of it. Should I set up a home studio with a green screen? What would be necessary for me to make that switch?
Really, there are no entry requirements, I don't think. They're mostly kind of high-level fluffy things, which, I know, it probably doesn't sound like it's very helpful, but it really does make the difference. One of them, obviously, and this happens with YouTube as well, have fun. But drop that pretense of needing to be perfect on delivery every time. So just have fun, put on a good show. I think that's kind of the difference, is that you're putting on a show, a live show. Be yourself, or you can put on a persona. You can honestly do either one. Like a lot of people say just be yourself, but you know what? Sometimes putting on that persona is that little extra bit that is more entertaining. And as long as you're having fun with it, your audience won't feel like it's anything different, right? They just need to know that you're enjoying what you're doing, because they can always tell when you're not. You can take the experience. If you're going from YouTube to Twitch, you can take your experience of creating polished content on YouTube and make a polished live show, and that would set you apart from a lot of the other startup streamers where it's just a very basic cam or a notebook even, or they have the basic hardware and they don't have any idea of what production really means. Take that polished production experience that you have and move that to Twitch in your stream as well. Have a decent overlay. Make sure your audio and everything sounds good. Your camera is nice and crisp. You can have a green screen or not. That's honestly, I found a 50-50 for streamers. It's just personal preference. And unless you're going to be like a speedrunner or like a strictly competitive gamer, be ready to spend more on-air time on the entertainment aspect and engaging with your community than you do actually on the game that you're playing, because that's what's going to get them coming back.
Wow, that is awesome. Wonderful advice. Thank you. You said it doesn't hurt to have a bit of a persona that you manufacture for the audience. Do you have one?
I personally don't. I think that I would do better, honestly, if I did. Because a persona would make me a little louder, a little more animated, and a little more entertaining to watch. But that's not my preference. My personal preference is to just be me and make it easy, casual, and natural. That's part of the whole passion project thing. But if I were to go full time, I would absolutely, for me personally, because I know I'm a pretty dull person. Honestly, I'm a pretty dull person to listen to regularly. But if I went full time, I would adopt a persona that is larger than what I naturally am to garner more viewers. and keep them.
It sounds like that would be exhausting.
It can be. It absolutely can be. But you kind of, it becomes second nature over time. Like when I first started streaming, like I said, I hated it because it is exhausting. It was exhausting. I've kind of put myself too much out there. Eventually you learn to piece it out little by little, and it becomes a part of you, that second persona. Like Future Man Gaming is a really good one. Retro Guy Jin. There's so many people who are very successful with this extra persona, and you can go as deep into it as you like, or just have it kind of on the surface. And then once you get into the game, it's kind of done. I think Future Man kind of does that. He has that whole like in the future sort of thing. And then when he's actually in the game, he's mostly himself, right? But just with a slightly more exaggerated personality. That's really all I'm talking about. Right now, I don't even do that. So I know that if I wanted to be more successful, that's something that I would have to do.
Wow. And now that you finished Owlboy, which games are you going to work on next?
I have a long freaking list of games. I have almost 1,000 Steam games alone. I honestly, you know what? That's the next thing I'm going to do right after this call is find out what I'm playing tonight. I don't know. I have just such a long list of games, and I'm trying to stick with games that are out a little more recently just because they probably need the most love, but it could be an older game. I don't know. It's really what my mood strikes me as. Some days I feel like doing an action game. Some days I feel like doing voice acting and just reading a lot of text. So I'll see how I feel after this call.
And for those who want to tune in and find out what game you are playing next, where can they find you online?
Twitter is the best place to find me. SeriouslyClara. I can never say my own name right. It's the ESL in me. SeriouslyClara at Twitter. And that's mostly where you can find me. I'm active on Twitter all the time, and I tweet out, like I said, an hour ahead of time before I stream every single time. And of course at twitch.tv/SeriouslyClara.
And one last question. Why are you Seriously Clara?
I have no good backstory to this. My usual name was taken already on Twitch, but what I adopted shortly after that was that I'm only serious about being me. A lot of people always make that joke, seriously, why are you so serious? But it's not serious Clara, it's Seriously Clara. I'm only serious about being me. Don't take me seriously in any other aspect.
Wonderful. Well, there will be links to all those things in the show notes at polygamer.net. Clara, thank you so much for your time. This has been a true pleasure.
Thank you so much for this call. It's been amazing.
This has been Polygamer, a Gamebits production. Find more episodes, read our blog, or send feedback at polygamer.net.